What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of All Things Super. I am one of your hosts, Spider, and I am joined once again by Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington. How are you doing today, sir?
I am magically, infinitely awesome.
Well, we see your hand on it now, so
Of
you
course.
took away from the mystery. It was fine until your finger crept up in the frame.
I'm behind the scenes working all angles. I need y'all to know it's not magic, it's me.
You are
How are you,
magic.
sir? There
Oh,
you go.
I'm doing great. I am doing
I'm
great.
trying to get like Therese and start throwing dust in it. I'm
Still haven't been able to find
trying
an answer
to
on
get
that.
like Therese and start throwing dust
I have
in it.
not been able to find an explanation about that.
The world is at a mystery. Like
He's
what
gonna
did
have a
I
big reveal in the next film.
Is he a magician?
Listen.
Oh my God, that is the most out of box stuff, man. You just out of nowhere.
Just
The fight was
dust.
over.
It was over.
Hey, come back and throw it on Pete Davidson.
Just
Oh,
if you don't know what we're talking about, go and check out our last episode
fast
where
breakdown.
we reviewed Fast 10. If you haven't seen Fast 10, go see Fast 10.
Well, you might want to see it before you watch our videos, because if you didn't know, we do all kinds of spoilers, baby.
All kind of spoilers here
Welcome
on
to the
All
show.
Things Super, where every week we take a piece of superpowered movie, TV shows, even trailers. We watch them, we react to them, we break them down, we review them, and we ask the question, is it super?
Is it?
Is
It's
it?
three little words
Just
that you're
three little
trying to
words.
figure out.
Three
That
little words to answer
is it?
life's questions.
That's
Is it
all we trying
super?
to. And great conversation here on this channel. If it's your first time, welcome. If it's not your first time, you know what it is. Conversation can go anywhere. Wakanda forever, for a little while.
For,
Consistently inconsistent.
for a few years at least.
Wait. Oh,
But if
yeah.
you like that, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes that come out.
Ping.
If you want the audio version of the podcast, just search for All Things Super on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms.
More than
And
likely, we do.
more than likely. And if you
More
want
than
to
likely.
join in on the conversation, just tweet at us at ATSuperPod.
And leave a comment because we like reading the comments.
We like
so do
reading the
that. Do
comments.
that part. Leave a comment because
That
we
is
like reading them.
absolutely true.
We engage like that. Or scissor like that.
Not engaged like that, but
Okay.
I'm already married, so
Robitussin. Yeah. Listen? I'm quoting Chris, but at the same time, we cannot deny the impact of music on the soundtrack for this movie.
oh, absolutely.
This soundtrack.
You were like in my head because I was just thinking, I was like, before we talk about anything else, in this movie, we have to touch on the soundtrack.
Acknowledge it at least.
Because it's just, you can't. And it was one of the things, there's a song on the soundtrack, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's by Jaden Smith.
Oh, Will Smith Jr.
Well, technically not, because he's not Will Smith's first son, but
no, not at all.
But the song on the Into the Spiderverse soundtrack, they brought Jaden back for the Spider-Man Miles Morales video game on a PlayStation, and the two songs sound very similar. Like it sort of a similar drum pattern.
When you did it right the first time,
he really did. It kind of really encapsulates Miles's sort of his attitude, his demeanor, just that, I don't know, because there was a meme going around about when they were describing Miles Morales and his style of swinging, and they said he has the exaggerated swagger of a black teen, and it was just that phrase was just so out of pocket, and it's like,
but how accurate was it?
I mean, it is. I wouldn't say it's exaggerated. I would just say it's swagger. He has the swagger of a black teen, of a black and Hispanic teenager.
He is swaggy. He got some swag tastic. So you could tell that by he was stickering New York.
Right. But you can see how rooted in his culture hip hop is, and how much it means to him, and how we have Hypnotized by Biggie.
Of course. He starts the whole movie off by singing.
Right. We have Sunflower by Post Malone. You know, we have all of these iconic hip hop tracks that we hear throughout the movie, and as a part of the soundtrack too, and just the What's Up Danger and his like
Oh my God, what's up,
transformative
Dane?
scene. Probably
Go to the gym and kill it on What's Up, Dane.
I
What's
mean,
up?
it's like the song itself is already like powerful, and just that when that get to that rise, can't stop me now, and they hit that in the song, it's already powerful. But the way they played it in the movie and they arranged it with the orchestra and the horns coming in, and it's just like that's probably
Yeah, when you hear his theme now, the
right.
theme when he's about to take off and do real Spider-Man ish type of stuff. How could you not feel that in your chest? Just
Exactly.
say,
As many times as I've seen Into the Spider-Verse, I've probably watched that scene of him becoming Spider-Man. I've
the leap of
probably
faith.
yeah, the leap of faith scene. I've watched that scene like infinite times more than I've seen
Listen,
the movie itself.
the way they captured that for him to be off the building, but it's so. There's a reason that this movie is what this movie is. There's a reason why. Not to say they don't have its flaws and quirks. Use your version of the word, but to see him on the building, to leap off, destroying the glass. You didn't just swing out. He fell. He was going down. But the way they showed it, they slowed it down,
flipped it,
inverted it, and it was really like a rise, but it was a fall because gravity. And you're like, he don't have shooters. I may give him shooters.
I made these myself. They fit perfectly.
And to see it whip it, when he whipped it, it still wasn't an instant connection.
No.
So it was like he's still falling. Like, when did these go catch? About to be a dead dude.
Just see Miles splat in the street.
Ooh, you was just hoping that them bad boys was sticky. Because if not, I'm not going to say he would have died, because we've seen him actually fall from a building before and hit the flagpole and so on and so forth. But yet and still, I can't. Spider-Man is not non-dieable. He's not impervious to dying. You can see the other Spider-Man was already hurt from the explosion. Kingpin came through, basically crushed his chest with the double hammer fist.
Right.
Is Miles Morales stronger than Spider-Man?
So I will say no.
Kingpin do the half hammer fist.
Right. And that's what
Miles took that.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking because
he was hurt.
One, Peter was already like crushed by all of the fallen debris, because even when he was talking to Miles and Miles was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Okay, coughing's probably not a good sign." So he's already hurt, probably punctured a lung or something. And then Kingpin comes in with the double fist, and that just like
added
insult to injury
for that.
Right.
Hey, listen, you're a Spider-Man espionato, an efficient of le craft.
None of those words are right, but I understand what you said.
Right. Doesn't Spider-Man, all versions of Spider-Man, have healing factors? Now, granted, they're not Deadpool, Wolverine healing factors, but Spider-Man has a healing factor.
Yeah, he does have a form of accelerated healing. He can heal faster than a normal human being, but you're right. It's not like a instant regeneration like Wolverine or Deadpool. So he can get better, but like I don't know if you played the Spider-Man PS4 game, but there was a scene where Spider-Man essentially got beat up by the Sinister Six, and he ended up coming back to feast. He's like he got his ass kicked, and they were like, "Dude, you have like 6 broken ribs, like a broken femur, you know, like all this other kind of stuff." He's still able to get up and like walk around. Now, granted, it is a video game. You are hurt. The injuries that they show you in cutscenes are not going to carry over into the actual gameplay. But there has been situations where Spider-Man has injured himself, but he's still able to, get up and kind of go about his business. And the Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man gets shot in the leg, and he just basically throws some web on it. He webs it up,
and he runs off the building,
and then he just keeps going. And he has this whole fight scene after that with the lizard, and it's like after a certain period of time, because that adrenaline gets to you, we see him limp when he's starting off, but he's able to still run and jump and swing and still get into that fight. So yeah, he does have a bit of an accelerated.
So if Kingpin didn't come in with the double fisticuffs, chances are Spider-Man would have been fine. I mean, we already seen through different iterations and versions, he has something heavy on him and he pushes it off because he holds his punches back. His real strength is masked like himself. So he could have basically moved it off of him if given enough time. He would have healed up.
Given him some time to kind of like rest and regain his composure and regain himself. Yeah, he could have pushed it off of him. He would have been able to kind of maybe limp away, because who knows like what other part of his bones were broken. All of that stuff fell on him, but he would have been able to like get away and just kind of go heal up.
Golly, man. Hey, listen, for those who are uninitiated and are watching this before watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you're actually doing yourself a disservice this time. I think you should go watch that, then come back to us. But if you stay here because you're like us, then I'm gonna make it juicy for you. Right here.
So Into the Spider-Verse is one of the few films that I own on Blu-ray, and so I watched that. And on the Blu-ray,
can I borrow your Blu-ray?
Yeah, I'll ship it over to you.
Asking for a friend.
But on the Blu-ray, there's a thing called the alternate universe mode.
Is that like Spider-Vision?
No, it's not like Spider-Vision. What it is that they basically took some additional story beats and kind of interstitched them throughout the movie. So it was like storyboards, some animatics, some cutscenes that were like developed but not necessarily fully rendered. And like I said, the rest of them were like storyboards or just like cinematics, just drawings of alternate takes throughout the movie.
So what are some of those takes that happen that us, the general public that don't have Blu-ray, would have missed?
Capabilities. So one of the things we know from watching the original or the theatrical release of Into the Spider-Verse, when when Miles gets bitten by the spider, it's in the
glitchy spider.
Right, the glitchy spider. It's in the scene after he and his uncle Aaron, they spray paint the mural, right?
Expectations.
No expectations.
Look how they did this, man.
But
look how they did it.
But
I didn't see the no though. I just saw
and I think that's what like the allure of it was, is that the no was like real small, but it's because he had a reading the book Great Expectations, and so it's so thematic of not only the story that they played on the theatrical release, but even the story that played out in this alternate universe version, was because he didn't get bit when they were down in the subway area. What happened, and this was more similar to what happened in the comics, is that he brought his backpack back to the school. And in the alternate universe cut, Miles is actually friends with his roommate, whose name is Genki Lee. Well, in this they call him Ganke, but however you pronounce it. But they're actually friends, which again goes more into how their friendship was developed in a comic book. They were actually closer friends when Miles got bit, to the point to where both in the comics and in the video game as well, Ganke already knows that Miles has powers, and he's sort of his guy in the chair, the way that they did with Ned and Peter in the MCU. Ned's whole kind of persona is somewhat similar, copied from what Ganke was in the comics from Miles Morales. And so in the alternate universe cut, Miles and Ganke, they have this whole like little fight because they're discussing a project or something, and the spider crawls up on Ganke first, And so, and it's very comical because the spider jumps from Ganke to Miles, from Miles to Ganke, and so they're like slap fighting each other. It's like real silly. And so Miles, of course, Miles still ends up getting bitten. But when they realize, because Miles has the whole thing about him, you know, going meet Gwen and having the whole puberty thing and getting stuck to everything. And so instead of him running from having a whole scene where he gets stuck in the security guard's office listening to the Spider-Man Christmas album and all that other kind of stuff, he ends up back in his room. And so even though he ends up back in his room in the movie, Ganke is back in the room and he sees him like stuck on the ceiling. And so they get into this whole scene about trying to figure out exactly what his powers are. And in the alternate universe cut, there's a movie. There was a movie called Spider-Man the Motion Picture. And so Ganke, they basically sneak into the library in the middle of the night and they're watching this movie in the library. And it's basically a take on the original Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. But in this movie, Spider-Man is sort of like Batman, where he's rich. He has a Ferrari and all this other kind of stuff. And
there you go.
And it's just completely not Peter Parker's story. It's just like completely different.
Is it though? Because let's just think about some things. Peter Parker is a genius.
He is a genius.
Functioning level scientist. He is on par, if not being one of the smartest people in Marvel Comics.
Right.
Damn near close. Like Reed Richards, who has deemed one of these smartest people in Marvel Comics, knows Peter and respects his intelligence. Yet and still, how you this smart and you struggling on rent? Make it make sense, my guy. Make it make sense.
One of the things is, and
you can project trajectories and
all of the physics and chemistry, make his own web fluid, all this other kind of stuff.
But you can't get your rent paid? Come on, Steve. I'm talking about Steve Ditko and
Stan Lee.
And Stan Lee.
But I can't remember where I saw this, but one of the things I think it was on TikTok, and it was that Peter's struggle lies in his attempts to wanting to do everything. Because you take a look at Tony Stark, you take a look at Bruce Wayne, these people who come from money, they already have a vast fortune. So because they have Stark Industries, Wayne Enterprises, their money is making money for them. So they can go off, be vigilantes, be superheroes.
That's right.
And they can do all of this stuff. But Peter doesn't come from money. So we've seen this in just about every iteration of Spider-Man. He finds a job, and you know, because he
sucks at the job.
It's not that he sucks at the job, but because he's trying to be Spider-Man at the same time he's trying to be Peter Parker, his schedule very rarely allows for him to be able to do both. So he's, and again, it's the mantra which Jefferson gets wrong: with great ability comes great accountability. And Miles is like, that's not even how it goes.
That's not even. I love the fact that there is a Spider-Man in this universe. You're not denying that there's a Spider-Man and he exists.
Right.
And then to find out that you are a Spider-Man as well, it's like, that's not possible.
Right.
Like, there's already a Spider-Man, but I have spider abilities.
Right.
I love how they played on that, because it was like, this can't be. This can't be possible. But yet and still,
and that's really one of the like the biggest criticisms that came from the Spider-Man fans when Miles Morales was first introduced. Because in the comics, in the Ultimates comics, it wasn't Kingpin that killed Spider-Man. It wasn't Kingpin that killed Peter Parker. It was the Green Goblin, the big mutated Green Goblin that we have in Into the Spider-Verse. And this was, like we were talking about, you know, having a healing factor, and you know how much that takes away from when Peter's already hurt to how much he can still heal. Because in the Ultimates comics, there was like this big battle going on in New York where all of the Avengers were involved, and this was after Peter went to the Avengers to try to get some help, try to enlist help from them, and it turned him away. And after this big battle happened, somebody went to shoot at Captain America. Peter stopped the
That
bullet.
somebody was Crossbones.
But Peter ended up stopping the bullet. He jumped in front of the bullet to save Captain America, and then he went back to Queens to go fight Green Goblin. He ended up dying in his own neighborhood. But this is after he had been shot, getting to this big fight. There's this huge explosion. Peter takes the brunt of it, and so Peter ends up dying. But and you know, and you will wonder, had he had not been shot and lost blood, you know, and he did the same thing. He webbed up his bullet wound. He had to like web up his broken ribs, so he was like really hurt before getting into that fight.
This stuff is non-toxic,
right? Because if it gets into his bloodstream, he's still okay. Or maybe because he has spider blood, it doesn't affect him.
Even worse. Don't you shoot me with that goddamn web fluid.
But even in the alternate universe cut, one of the first things that Miles says is that when Ganke was like, "You're Spider-Man," and Miles is like, "There's already a Spider-Man. Spider-Man already exists. I don't need to be Spider-Man. I don't want to be Spider-Man."
Yeah.
And he was
like me being Iron Man.
He was really against, and I don't think that they really showed this in the theatrical release about how much he was against wanting to be the new Spider-Man or wanting to be a Spider-Man or wanting to be a superhero at all. He's like, because they kind of alluded to it when he was talking to his dad about he wanted to go back to Brooklyn Middle School. He's like, I'm in the school with all of these other kids and they're all geniuses.
Brooklyn.
And, you know, I just want to go back to being a regular kid in a regular school. And Jefferson tells him, he's like, no, you may have won the lottery to get placement, but you passed the entrance exam just like everybody else who was a part of the lottery. So your intellect is on par with the rest of these kids.
Boom! Respect my QI.
IQ?
Yeah, dyslexia. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, he was really against wanting to be a superhero. And the alternate universe cut really kind of developed Miles and Ganke's friendship, which we'll probably get a little bit more into in Across the Spider-Verse, or we may not, because we don't know how much of this movie is actually going to take place in Miles's universe before he starts, you know, universe hopping.
Yeah, but well, here's the problem when you universe hop. There ain't no telling if you're coming back home.
That is very true.
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
That is very true.
You may leave and never come. You might get close to it, unless you have a homing beacon, kind of like Rick and Morty. You have to find that universe again.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. But yeah, I mean, the relationship is there. Clearly, inside of this movie, he saw him, Miles Morales, along with a bunch of spider-themed people on the ceiling, passed out. But at the end of it, you know, Miles put his friend in bed.
Right.
And he woke up and then he went back to sleep.
Right back to sleep.
Miles was invisible. He had learned to master his ability, but they became friends afterwards. They had a pound and they understood, hey, you're Spider-Man, because he was in his uniform, his Spider-Man uniform. And they're cool with it. So there is a possibility that they may linger on that. How much time they're going to give it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how much time they're going to give Gwen and Miles, because clearly in this movie, the puppy eyes and the flirty eyes were there.
Yeah.
So if he don't get a kiss by the end of this movie, the new one, he's in the friend zone.
I mean,
which is fine, because they might bring in Black Cat.
Why would they bring in Black Cat?
Hey man, it's a universe. They're always bringing in new characters.
Yeah, but Black Cat and Miles never had a relationship.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's a universe.
She'll be well older than him.
Hey, sometimes you like them older. They're experienced.
No, Miles is still a teenager. This is no.
He's not 21 like Savage?
No, he is not. He's still in school.
Could have failed. I don't know.
No.
He can't get a job. I don't know what's going on with his intellect. It's QI one day, IQ the next day. I don't understand what's going on
in this movie. He's 13. And so I don't know how.
And how old is he in the new one? 17?
No, in Across the Spider-Verse, I think he might be 16.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I mean, even if he is 16 or 17, going out with Black Cat would still be illegal.
Better get a kiss out of Gwen.
I don't know. I mean, if he doesn't, if
We
they
just
don't,
talked about him being swagtastic or swaggerific or using swaggy.
but
You got
even if they don't develop their friendship into a romantic relationship, I wouldn't be mad about that. I'm fine with them being
well
friends.
in Gwen's universe, I think she prefers the company of females in her universe, if I remember that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Leave a comment in the comment section if I'm wrong, but I think Gwen, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then again, it's multiversal, so that could be just in that iteration.
It could be. So we don't know. But yeah, so they in the alternate universe cut, they spent a lot of time watching this movie, Spider-Man the Motion Picture, because they were watching the movie with DVD commentary. And they had their actual universe, Peter Parker, played by Chris Pine, who was sort of the, what do you call him? The consultant on the film. So a lot of the things that happened in the
Oh,
film were accurate to the way Spider-Man's powers actually work, like the little microscopic talons that he has on his hands that allows him to stick to walls. They actually explain that in the movie. And so in alternate universe cut, they were using the movie as sort of a how-to guide for Miles to be able to understand his powers, which we don't see in the the theatrical release.
I know, man. Words are hard, man.
You get
That's
too
why I
many
just throw
T's,
them out there.
get too many T's in succession, you start to kind of stutter over yourself. But yeah, in a theatrical release,
Right. Yeah, they
we
charge extra for that. I know they do.
the only thing that we
To
really
be
see
teased.
is Miles trying to leap from building to building and kind of fell at, like you say, he fell, he hit the flagpole, crushed his goober in his pocket. Um
Mmm. Mmm.
but
Here's the thing though, Spider. I
mhm,
love the fact that they did that and they did that early. So you as an audience member, you're like, what do we do now? Is he
right.
gonna fix it or how can he fix it? And he was so inexperienced, there was no clue.
Right.
So
He
he
didn't
was
even know
like,
what was on
man,
it. So he had
yeah, he was
no
like,
idea how
man,
to
I
fix
made
it.
a promise. I can't fulfill this promise because I done broke this thing
Mm-hmm.
accidentally. And we got Peter B. Parker. It's like, yeah, it's always a thing.
There's always a goober or a gadget or, you know, you say there's always a bypass key or override key or a self destruct key. So many keys, so I just call it a goober. Give it.
That's hilarious. Um, this movie again earned everything that it got.
Mm-hmm.
It earned everything that it got. It was just a capsulation of time that still told the storyline so well, but there was a lot of foreshadowing in it to pay off in the end. This is a masterclass on not just a superhero movie, a coming of age movie uh, with with teenage angst, with heartfelt moments, with uh, clarity of self discovery. When he swept Peter B. Parker at the end
Mm-hmm.
and caught him and told him,
Gotta
"You
go
got to go
home,
home."
man.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's like I got this,
Right.
and turn around and was like Kingpin, like I'm Spider Man, like I'm not leaving it up to nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's me. It's me. Whatever you got, I'm who you got it for. I want all the smoke, the brisket, the turkey, the turnips, the whatever you got on the grill. I want what? I'm some people vegan, man. Don't do that. So you can put celery on the grill. You ever had celery with grill marks?
I
It's a
can't say
thing.
that I have.
Well, somebody did, and they put sauce on that thing. But whatever it was, he was right there for it. And he caught one of them hammer fists, and he got up kind of slow, like, okay, he's serious. He not even playing. I thought he was gonna give me like a dry run. He coming all out. And that's when he hit him with the soda tap. Hey,
Yep.
and kill the game. He know how to work his spot. Like, what other way could you have said, you want to help,
Mm-hmm.
your intentions are good, but you don't even know how to control your
He
powers.
can't do it on command.
Cannot do it on command. How supportive is that? Damn, man. Listen, let me let's take this opportunity, Spider, to do some predictions.
Okay.
Prediction time. Prediction time. Prediction time. Prediction time. Prediction time. Into Across the Spider Verse.
Right.
We clearly have Spider Man 299699,
619.
whatever. He's clearly one of the overseers of the multiverse,
Mm-hmm.
and he's putting a team together, kind of like Nick Fury. He's putting a team together, and he won't let Miles join the team.
Right.
I'm getting Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer vibes. Okay, everybody is on the team. Can't let Rudolph join the team playing the reindeer games. What is this about?
So
I just want to ask this question real fast before I get into my prediction.
the theory that I've been seeing is that all of the Spider-Men, Spider people, not even Spider people, all of these Spider beings, I guess you could call them, because we got a horse in there, we got a cat in there, but all of the Spider beings
Got bit by
from
spiders.
not all of them, because Spider-Ham got bit by a radioactive. He was a spider that got bit by a radioactive pig. It then turned into a pig and became Spider-Ham.
Yeah, it makes sense if you don't think about it.
Even if you don't think about it, still don't make sense. But one of the theories that I saw was that everybody has suffered some kind of, loss of someone,
Uncle Ben,
which we've seen
or
some type of Uncle
or
Ben
father,
figure.
father figure or parental
Well,
figure,
I mean, it's not even necessarily
Aunt
a father
May
figure,
or
because with Gwen lost her
her
Peter,
best friend.
and
Oh,
her dad's still alive. And I think we're gonna see we actually, in one of the trailers, we get to see a little bit of that, where she's the Spider Woman of her universe and her dad is the chief of police. Well, I don't know if he's the chief of police in the movie in her universe, but I know he's part of the police force, and
well,
he's
Gwen Stacy in the Amazing Spider-Man, her father was the chief of
yeah,
police.
well,
So.
he was a captain.
Ooh,
So
ranks. Okay, sorry.
but
No disrespect to the
right.
ranks.
But so whatever his role is on the police force in our universe, he's going after Spider-Woman, because he hears on like the police scanner that he was like, "Oh, we might have a lead on Spider-Woman." And of course Gwen is like, "Oh, great." And she's like really, dejected about it, because of course that's who she is. And they have the whole thing that Miles and his dad has, where he asks his dad, he's like, "Dad, do you really hate Spider-Man?" And this is after he has gotten spider powers. He's like, "Do you really hate him that much?" And his dad is like, "Well, I mean, yeah." And Rio was like,
Oh, it
"Jefferson,
is.
really?" He's like, "Come on, baby, you know how I feel about Spider-Man."
Right.
Like, just no love for him at all. But we see
And
that
so, look,
change
look when that
at the end of the
happened,
movie.
though.
Yeah, like
Look when that happened. Right after
right.
the emotional beat of Spider-Man, the Spider-Man of that universe had died, and
Yeah.
Miles has seen it. So it's like,
And then
whoa.
we get Jefferson saying that, and then in the next clip, we see them sitting in front of the TV. There's a news report that Spider-Man has died, and they reveal who Spider-Man was. And then we get this whole, you know, everybody's realization that he was a 26-year-old grad student, and it was like, and
Yeah, he was
it
flunking.
was the same realization that you get in all the iterations when people find out, like they did in Spider-Man Far From Home, No Way Home, the last one, when they find out that Peter Parker is a high school student, and it's
Yeah.
like, dude, you're just a kid. It's like, really,
Yeah,
like,
even the Tobey Maguire one when they took the mask off, I
yeah,
had
it's like
the
he's
heard
just
the
a kid,
audio was like he's just a kid,
right?
even though Toby looked like he was about 27 in that.
He looked like he was in his 30s, and that,
Yeah,
I mean, he was still in college, so
he was
essentially still
definitely
a kid.
collecting some checks from somebody.
Yeah, but yeah, and so people come to the realization, like, oh my god, it's like we thinking that this is a fully fledged adult, going
Well, he does have
around.
man in a title,
Yeah,
so
and so even with Miles, even when Peter first started, like people kind of just thought that he was like Spider-Man, and nobody just realized he was a teenager, because at that point he had been doing it for in Into the Spider-Verse. Miles' Peter had been doing it for 10 years at that point. Um, so since he was 16, this guy has been saving New York, and we don't know.
What's up, New York,
We
Brooklyn?
we don't know what bigger threats he faced. It was confirmed that there were other superheroes in the universe, in the alternate universe cut. Iron Man was mentioned, so Iron Man does exist, but of course in the theatrical cut there weren't any mention of any other names.
Hold on, Spider. I want to
Mm-hmm.
take this opportunity, even though we're getting into predictions a little second from now, or you start the clock and then we'll get to it when we get to it. This is a great conversation. Well, let's talk about this real fast. There's a depiction between DC and Marvel, right?
Okay.
DC's universe always has fantasy-ish locations. Mascara, or wherever Wonder
The
Woman is from.
mascara,
Gotham, Smallville,
Metropolis,
or Metropolis,
Central City, Star City.
Central City. These places don't exist on the map. You
Right.
got a Hell's Kitchen that's in New York, but at the same time, that's not DC.
Mm-hmm.
That's Marvel.
Right.
Marvel has real locations. New York, New York, New York. Mainly all of their heroes are in New York.
Right.
Now, Stanley clearly had a boner from New York. He's not from New York. No disrespect to New York. He did it for a purpose of having a real city match with his characters.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a problem, or here's a question. Since you have this central location and you have these big events happening, transpiring, and it's all connected, how do you not write yourself into a corner when your fans of your heroes are looking for your other heroes? Which is, I think, what's happening in the actual MCU. Um, we have things going on in New York, but we don't see the Defenders. We don't see the Avengers. We don't see Daredevil,
mm-hmm.
or lack of, or a She-Hulk, or any of all these New York centric heroes.
Oh, She-Hulk was in California.
Well, she should be. She can call me. I'll go to California. Some of that She-Hulk.
But I mean, no,
you paint yourself into a corner when you do something like that.
I don't think you paint yourself into a corner because it's just something that's always been done. In comic books, there's always been this core group of superheroes that are located in New York, but unless the storyline calls for them to interact with each other, they're never around each other. Like
but everybody don't do that. Everybody doesn't centralize their characters in one particular
no.
spot.
What I'm saying is that in the Marvel comics, because DC gets away from it because they have these different locations. Like Batman is not going to go to Central City to help Flash with Captain Boomerang, right? Because they're far enough apart.
That's beneath him. Batman got way too much.
But the storylines don't call for it. And then even the same thing, Superman doesn't go to Gotham and help Batman with the Joker or Dr. Freeze or Mr. Freeze.
There has been iterations where they've crossed areas.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
More so than anybody else. Batman has gone to Gotham and stole Lois Lane from Clark. I mean, talk to Lois Lane.
There was even what was it? The Superman in the animated series where they crossed over with Batman animated series, where Superman went to Gotham and pretended to be Bruce Wayne, pretended to be Batman, and
MIA or something.
Yeah, and so it's unless the storyline calls for it, these superheroes don't cross over into each other's stories because they're separated into their own cities: Central City, Star City, Gotham City, Metropolis.
Right.
And so DC can get away with that. Marvel, on the other hand, we have Iron Man in New York. We have the Defenders in New York, and so Iron Man could easily
Hawkeye.
Yeah, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow,
Captain
all of the
America.
Avengers, they're all pretty much based out of New York. And anything that the Defenders have to go up against, where you have Daredevil, who's still a human, but he has amplified senses. Iron Fist, who's still a human, but he has, mystical powers, but he's, a master of martial arts.
I know about the mystical powers.
Jessica Jones, who's still a human, but she has, heightened strength and everything, where the Avengers could easily help them with any of their issues, right? But because storyline just doesn't call for it, the Defenders have to handle their own issues on their own, whereas the Avengers kind of do their own things on their own. So there have
I
been
mean, would you be upset if you had to handle a group of people called the Hand? I mean, I think you got it. The Hand. It's not even a threatening name.
I mean,
it's not menacing at all. The Hand.
but you
You know
think
the
about it.
Hand, right?
Yeah, I know the Hand, but I'm just saying you think about it, and it's like even though they may not be threatening as a force to go up against the Defenders, they collectively control like a good part of New York because they're controlled by some of the most wealthiest, the powerful people who have resources. So it's the ninjas that they're fighting in the shadows, that's one thing, but the corruption that they're fighting in like the actual
Whoa.
world, that's something different. That's something like, you know, Matt can go up against from a legal standpoint, you know, Jessica can kind of investigate them from, you know, a PI standpoint. But on that front, Luke Cage can't really do much. Danny Rand can't really do much. So
Hey, wait, hey, hold on. I'm not gonna let you just talk about Luke Cage like that. That man could walk in and get shot a lot.
okay, but so in I'm looking at this
That's
from,
what he bringing to the
but what I'm
table,
saying is that you take these multi-billionaires who,
right?
for example, in the Netflix series, the Hand was basically buying up all of this property in New York because they were trying to resurrect this, you know, great entity or whatever.
Of course.
So, from a legal perspective, in a boardroom setting where they're acquiring all of this land, they're kicking people out of their homes, they're buying up all of these buildings, what is Luke Cage going to do in that situation?
Get shot a lot.
That's not going to help. If I'm in an apartment in New York and this corporation is buying me out and kicking me out of my apartment, Luke Cage getting shot is not going to stop me from losing my apartment.
Hey, you didn't ask how this is gonna benefit you. You said,
But
what is he gonna do?
I'm saying, how can Luke Cage help in that situation? Him getting shot
He's
is not helping.
he's going to say "Sweet Christmas." And that is so heroic,
Sure.
right there. Sweet Christmas.
But what I'm saying is that the Hand was more than just the ninjas that the Defenders had to fight.
Okay, prediction time. Prediction time.
Mm-hmm.
Will we see Miles Morales come into the MCU at the end of into Across the Spider Verse?
At the end of this movie that's coming out next week or this week?
Yes.
No, because it's going to be a second part.
Will you see it at the end of that?
Possibly. Because the second part has been rumored to be titled Beyond the Spider-Verse.
So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was already a hint in Spider-Man Homecoming,
Right.
these home titles, that a Miles Morales already exists in the MCU.
Correct.
Are we taking that out? Is this retcon, or how are we going about handling that?
I don't think
Because
it'll be retcon. I think it's one of those things that they introduce and they just haven't really gone back to it.
we saw it as an audience. We were like, Donald Glover is the Prowler. He's the uncle.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to put a version of him in this movie, he is Uncle Aaron.
Right.
He gets killed in this movie. Donald Glover is still alive in the MCU,
As far as we know.
as far as we know. And shout out to you for the Jaden Smith reference earlier. I wanted to say that's art reflecting life, because at one point in time they wanted Jaden to be Spider-Man in Miles Morales live action movie. Neither here nor there. We already have Miles Morales in the MCU, or do we?
We haven't mentioned we don't have a character that's portrayed him.
So, what happens to that character when this Miles Morales comes over from beyond the multiverse?
I don't think that we're going to get introduced to Miles Morales for in the MCU for a while.
I mean, they're hinting at it with Jamie Foxx saying as Electro, from saying, "Hey, I thought you were black underneath that mask," or
it's like,
it's
you
cool.
know,
It's cool. They have to be a black Spider-Man somewhere,
yeah,
right? That's clearly a nod towards, hey, where's the black Spider-Man?
right. But I think from a logistical storytelling standpoint, and we always talk about good stories, we talk about good writing on this show. But
Hey, That's what we do.
The next Spider-Man movie that comes out in the MCU starring Tom Holland will probably be the first Spider-Man central
Stand
story. Like his own standalone. I'm dealing with my own
my
problems,
own
my own
villain, my
villains.
own
Right. Not
storyline.
tied to anybody else.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I want to say yes to that,
Mm-hmm.
but as I understand it from the hot tea tabloids that I read, we're asking Zendaya to come back in the next Spider-Man. So somewhere along the line, she'll figure out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, which right now the memory spell has her not remembering.
Right.
And you can kind of see at the end of it, she's kind of
It's probably just like a
something's,
little deja vu type thing. Like, oh, this person seems familiar.
yeah. And then
But I mean, how
what
does
do
that
you,
take away from
do you feel as
Peter?
though that undercuts the ending of the last Spider-Man?
No, I don't think it undercuts it. I think that it depends on what Peter does with, that information, because we saw in the Maiden Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, as much as Peter wanted to stay away from Gwen, wanted to get away from Gwen, wanted to make sure that she was not involved so that way she wouldn't get hurt, Gwen would still shoehorn her way into the things that he was doing, because we get the realization at the end of the first one where Captain Stacy dies, and one of the last things that he tells Peter is that you have to stay away from my daughter. She's going to get involved. She's not going to want to leave you, and she's going to get hurt. So I want you to stay away from her. And he promises that. And then he does that, and Gwen figures it out. And she still, even at the end, she was like, I get it. You made a promise, but promises were made to be broken. And so they keep their relationship going. And we see in the second one, Gwen's getting an internship to, go to the UK for her school. And of course, Peter doesn't want her to go, but eventually he does let her go. And they get into the ending where Peter's fighting Electro at the power grid, and Gwen is there. He's trying to get Gwen away, but she's like, no, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to go flip this switch. You can't do it by yourself. And so again, they get into that situation, and then Green Goblin ends up abducting her, and we all know what happens after that. But so I think that depending on how Tom Holland's Peter reacts to, if he sees MJ, who's like, all of a sudden he notices that MJ is always around. She's kind of, snooping, trying to figure out who Spider-Man is and all
She
this other
figured it
kind of
out the
stuff.
first time.
Right. She figured it out, but that was also because she was around Peter on a daily basis because they were going to school together. And so they're in DC, Peter's there, and it's like all of a sudden Peter has to go, and then Spider-Man shows Peter's not anywhere around. And they're, overseas, and like all of a sudden Spider-Man's overseas too. So this can't be a coincidence.
That was the monkey. That was
Night
the
Monkey.
Night Monkey.
Yeah.
That wasn't Spider-Man at
But
all.
MJ's not an idiot. MJ's not stupid.
No, far from it. She has a job.
Right.
She's not struggling to pay rent.
But I think that it's not going to take away from what they did in No Way Home, because it just depends on how Peter handles it. Because if he just goes, we saw at the end, like, even though he had the opportunity to like give her the letter and basically explained everything that happened, he knows that that would be putting her in danger, so he shied away from that. So as long as they keep with that in the next movie, and it's not just him, it's like, oh, it's me, it's Peter, you knew me when we had this whole history together. If he still is like, trying to keep her away and trying to maintain his double lifestyle, then I would think that that's kind of more along the lines of what Peter in the comics would do, rather than him just wanting to get MJ back. I think as long as he keeps his core intention of trying to protect her as the forefront of everything, then I think that, I don't think that would take away from what they did in No Way Home.
Prediction time. We're still in prediction time. Hey, do we think we see a younger version of Black Cat in the new Spider-Man movie?
We're talking about Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I know, but this is all Spider-Man. It's across the Spider-Verse. It's the Spider-Verse is adjacent.
I mean, possibly. We don't know who they could introduce in the newest Spider-Man movie.
It's
I
time for a
mean,
love
they
interest.
they have of course you have because at the end of No Way Home you had the symbiote from when Venom got pulled back. Venom shouldn't have been in this universe in the first place
No,
because
Vulture shouldn't have been in the Sonyverse in the first place.
it's
Let's
say,
just go ahead and throw
I
all these
mean,
cards out.
it's both of them. It's both of them.
There you
Neither
go.
one of them should have been swapped. But
There you go.
in any regard, Eddie Brock came
I think
into.
MCU got the better out that deal if they got some ooze, if they got some
I mean,
symbiotic
I
fluid.
guess. I mean, Vulture was a pretty good villain in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's gonna do in the Spider Verse because as far as we've seen or see what he's gonna do in the Sonyverse because as far as we have seen in the Sonyverse there is no Spider-Man. There is a Spider-Man, but we haven't seen Spider-Man in the Sonyverse. So I don't know if Andrew Garfield is gonna come back and be that Spider-Man or if
he
they're gonna do
should.
anything different.
We need another Andrew Garfield
Yeah, but
Spider-Man.
I don't
It
like.
was not his fault that the script was the script.
No, it wasn't. But I don't like the. I don't like there being two. I mean, it makes sense that there would be multiple Spider-Man, but
There's multiple Spider-Man. This movie alone itself shows you that there are multiple iterations of Spider-Man.
yes, there is. But
Some even have capes.
some even have capes. But I
There you
just
go.
I don't
Here we
like
go.
I don't like what Sony
Here
I
we
don't like
go.
what Sony has been doing with their Spider-Man
What are you
characters.
talking about? Into the Spider Verse was a
I'm talking about
master
live
class.
action. I'm talking about in live action.
Oh, well, we're talking about something totally
No,
different.
I'm
Then
talking
that
about
was
live
horrible
action.
from casting to writing to plot to
I mean,
effects.
I like the Amazing Spider-Man sequels, like Amazing Spider-Man 1 and Amazing Spider-Man 2. A lot of people hated Amazing Spider-Man 2. I didn't think it was that bad. But after Amazing Spider-Man 2, and they went into Venom and Venom 2, and now Morbius, and now there's supposed to be a Craven the Hunter movie coming out I think later this year.
Prediction time, prediction time, prediction time. You think that movie is gonna be super?
I can't speculate on that because I haven't seen anything about it.
You haven't seen the trailer?
No, there's no trailer.
I saw it.
Oh, because you're a man outside of time.
And I will burn them out of time.
But to answer your question, will we see a younger version of Black Cat in the next Spider-Man movie? I mean, it's possible. At this point, anything's possible.
Anything's not possible at all points in time?
No?
Okay. Thought it was.
There are some situations where some things are impossible.
At that current point in time.
Yeah, so that means that not everything is possible at any given point in time.
Any given point in time, there's a possibility of something not being possible.
Correct.
That almost sounds like this show. The consistency of being inconsistent is the consistency of the show.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching.
Are we wrapping up?
I'm just saying thank you to our loyal and dedicated people that comes on to watch us have a conversation about topics.
It sounded like you were ready to wrap it up and get out of here.
Oh man, I live here.
I'm the one turning the lights off at night.
Right, exactly.
But
this movie has been a joy to read. I told you I love our rewatches.
Mm-hmm.
Our rewatches have not let us down thus far. So if you haven't watched the first Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse, look. Let's talk about these titles, okay? We're clearly going for a theme here. And I don't know if we have to. I don't know if they're doing this Spider-Verse because Homecoming did all these homes.
No.
It's okay for it to be Spider-Man 6. just Spider-Man 6. Miles Morales 3. It's okay.
No.
I'm okay with it, Spider. It don't have to be across the inside, beyond, around the corner from the verse. It doesn't have to be lay down, get down, stay down, empty your pockets. Sequels. What's this face you're making? I don't understand.
Because I'm looking at dates.
Okay.
So Spider-Man Homecoming came out 2017. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out 2018.
It's like every 2 years or almost every 2 years. Because if not, then they have to contract wise, they have to return the rights back to Marvel. So you're going to get another Spider-Man movie within the next couple of years. The question is, what are we going to do with Tom Holland, and how much money is it going to take for him to stay on as Spider-Man? And what does that contract look like between Marvel and Sony? Because clearly, this is make no mistakes, guys, girls, team, all things super family. Spider-Man belongs to Sony.
Mm-hmm.
They own it. They bought it from Marvel. And I knew when Kevin Feige came on and he was slowly, quietly acquiring his characters back for Marvel, that they were going to run into opposition with Spider-Man because the cat was already out the bag. MCU was growing. And it was like, oh, we about to double down on Spider-Man because they're coming for him. The best thing that they did is what they did was create a deal so they could use Spider-Man. Right. And when they put Spider-Man in Civil War, Captain America Civil War, our minds were blown because it was like, how can they do this? They don't have the rights. And then he was in there. And then we found out later on, not only he was in there, but we're getting a Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man movie, and to make sure that it was a 100% success, we threw Iron Man in there. Then we came back and made it more than what it is. I mean, at this point, he's Spider-Man. And then we did all of that, which was the origin story, took it away, and now we stripped them down to basically, for anybody that did not approve of any of that, we're now back to basics.
Because every single Spider-Man movie had every single MCU Spider-Man movie had someone else from the MCU as sort of a driving force as to what Spider-Man was doing. So in Spider-Man,
so no cameos in the new one.
No. I'm not saying that Nick Fury. I'm not saying that there's not going to be any cameos. I'm just saying that if they want to do Spider-Man right and they want to make a Spider-Man movie, then they shouldn't have any cameos. I'm not saying that they won't be, but they shouldn't have any cameos if they wanted to be a Spider-Man movie. But that's exactly what
we were talking about. We were talking about being so centric in New York. How could you not run across Daredevil? If everyone's out at night patrolling the streets looking for crime, how do you not run across Iron Fist? How do you not run across The Hand? How do you not run across Luke Cage? How do you not run across Doctor Strange or Wong or Madison with the eye that's not what you think?
I don't think you're going to run across Madison unless you're going to the nightclubs. And again, Madison was in California.
Oh yeah, sorry. Well, Wong wasn't in California.
Wong was.
There is no LA sanctioned Centaurium.
Is there not?
New York, Europe, and China.
Yeah, you're right.
Hong Kong.
Wong can go wherever the hell Wong wants to go.
Oh, because he's a sorcerer supreme on a technicality. Because Doctor
Strange was, because he was blood for 5 years. But Spider-Man Homecoming had Iron Man. Spider-Man Far From Home had Nick Fury and Maria Hill. Spider-Man No Way Home had Doctor Strange. And you get away from all of that by now, because nobody knows who Peter Parker is, so none of them are going to be inserting themselves into
Peter's. He knows who they are.
Right, but it's not like he's going to go run up to the Sanctum Sanctorum and go look for Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is going to be like, okay, and who are you?
Well, they know Spider-Man.
They know Spider-Man.
They just don't know Peter Parker.
But they don't know Peter Parker.
So that's fine. But I mean, right now, Spider-Man has the upper hand. He knows the Guardians. Work at the Guardians.
Guardians with the antennas. Nowhere near Earth. Well,
nowhere near Earth.
Peter's in Missouri, and that's it.
Well, I don't think Peter's coming from Missouri to New York.
No, he's not. So the Guardians are not a factor.
No, I'm saying he knows the Guardians. He knows Tony.
He knows 3 of them. Well, I guess he may have met them all at the funeral.
There you go.
And Tony's dead.
And well, I'm saying he knows Hawkeye. He knows basically, like you just said, everybody at the funeral he knows.
Right.
Even the kid, what's the kid name?
Harley.
Harley Keener, who's at the funeral with no parental supervision
And
for a guy
Harley
that,
is somewhere in the Midwest, isn't he?
hey,
Where'd
maybe
he
it's
go
in
in Iron
Missouri.
Man 3? I don't even remember where he went.
That's a question for the comment section. Here's a point that I'm getting to.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what I'm saying. You're in New York. How do you not run across? Don't get me wrong. You're in the city. You're in the city. You don't see people you know every day.
Right.
But the common theme is crime. Everyone has a police scanner, or at least close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Even they show Peter had a police scanner. So you're essentially going to come across someone else fighting the same crime area. Attention all cars. We have a break in at such and such, or a bank robbery at so and so. You're going to have to see, especially when you start dealing with higher tier villains like a Rhino or a Vulture or a Sandman or.
But I think that's where, in the separation of, like, the DC separation of Metropolis, Gotham, Star City, Central City, Themyscira, all of those, you have these more street level heroes are, especially even though they're all from New York, they're kind of still within their own boroughs. So Daredevil stays within Hell's Kitchen for the most part.
Of course.
Luke Cage stays within Harlem for the most part. And so you have Peter, who goes, even though he can swing pretty much anywhere he wants to go in New York, but he's more about Midtown, downtown. You know, he doesn't really go over to Brooklyn too much. He doesn't really, you know, he's from Queens, but it's really like central New York that he's sort of kind of localized to. But it's not, like you say, you don't run across people every single day, but it's not like he's going to always go to Harlem and then run into Luke Cage, or he's going to always go to Hell's Kitchen and then run into Daredevil. It's possible. Could it be a cameo between Charlie Cox and Tom Holland? We saw in No Way Home that Charlie Cox made a cameo appearance. I don't think he would make another cameo appearance in
no, he's in LA getting his boots knocked off.
Sure, he's not living in LA at this point.
Well, that depends on how good She-Hulk is. Clearly, he was walking down the streets, boots in hand.
Yeah, but I think that if Wilson Fisk is going to make a reappearance in Daredevil Born Again, then he's going to be back in New York.
Prediction time. Is Wilson Fisk going to be blind when he makes his appearance in Daredevil? And how come we are not acknowledging, since we're talking about Fisk, this insane amount of power that this man possesses?
Oh, it's been acknowledged.
Like in every iteration, but he's not supposed to be a super soldier or even have superpowers. But he's
just a really
incredibly
strong. He's just a really strong man.
Dude took an arrow to the chest and was like, get that out of here. He was hit by a car and he was like, up and at him.
That's just the way Wilson Fisk has always been.
Oh my goodness, what is going on? I need a backstory that he trained with Batman in the mountains of the Shadow Leagues or something.
Check the comics. Comics will give you his backstory. You saying that you need it in the MCU? I don't know if we're gonna get that.
That's what I'm trying to say. We need a little
I don't think we need an explanation for everything.
So taking an arrow to the chest and going, and walking it off after he got hit by a car.
I mean, look at
getting shot in the face.
In Black Widow,
being blind.
In Black Widow, Natasha fell out of a 4-story building, hit the air conditioning vent on the way down, splat on the concrete, got up and walked away.
No, she actually landed on her feet like a.
Oh yeah. Are we questioning that? We're going to see how she's able to survive that?
Clearly, she slept with Steve Rogers and got some of that super soldier serum in her, and that's what happens when you. How else can you explain? There's no reason that she should have been able to have done that.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
There was a lot of things that Black Widow was able to do. There's no reason that she should have been able to do those things.
Such as,
I mean,
I was okay with her landing on stuff, debris falling out the sky. That was cool. That's it.
I'm just saying.
Across the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse, beyond the Spider-Verse, at the end of it, I think the prediction, and this would probably be the last prediction time. I think we're gonna be in for a treat of a movie if they can encapsulate everything that they encapsulated in the first one into this one. I mean, we did the trailer breakdown when the trailer dropped, and we saw there's some level of comedy in there. There's some severe, serious things going on, but it's not to say there's a story of a coming of age story like we had with this one. It scares me because I don't know exactly where we're going with this. How many, besides everything, always, all at once, iterations of multiversal stories have we gotten that has been just mind blowing?
I mean, we haven't. There really haven't been too many multiversal properties.
That's what I'm scared of. That's what I'm saying. Besides everywhere, all at once, all the time, sometimes not at the same time, everything else kind of fell flat. Doctor Strange,
Well, because in
as a multiversal story.
Because in Doctor Strange, they didn't really explore a multiverse. They were in Doctor Strange's original universe or the MCU's original universe. America Chavez came in. They flew through a bunch of different universes, but we didn't really get to spend any time with them. Whereas in Everything Everywhere All at Once, we got to spend time in those universes. We got to see these different variations of these characters. With hot dog fingers, and where she was a kung fu actress, and and the rocks,
they had muscles in her thumbs, right?
Right, and they had muscles in the thumbs and all this. But we got to see those, we got to experience those, so we got to see the different variations, which is where we get to see. In Into the Spider-Verse, we get to see the different variations coming to one universe, and so we get to see the differences between Peter Parker and Peter
more
B.
like
Parker.
A hub.
Well, I mean, they're essentially they're in Miles' universe, so it is his universe.
Well, I'm talking about when all of them are together at like the central nexus. That's more like a hub.
Well,
it's more like
no.
station.
I'm talking about in Into the Spider-Verse, not Across the Spider-Verse.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
But what I'm saying is that Into the Spider-Verse, we get the introduction into them coming into one universe. We get, their, explanation. Let's do this one last time, and we get to see, where they came from, but we don't get to spend time in those universes. And I think in Across the Spider-Verse, being that it is across the Spider-Verse, we're going to spend a little bit more time in those universes. And then if it's going to be beyond the Spider-Verse in the third iteration, we're going to go beyond this what we've been looking at in the Spider-Verse, and we're either going to jump into the MCU or we're going to go into something completely different, to where we're seeing, I forget what it's called, but it's like the web of something.
Destiny.
Yeah, the web of destiny. And so it's just where everything is sort of fabricated for all of these different spider beings, and like their area that's being controlled to dictate, what they are able to do. And I think that that's going to be one of the biggest reasons. And we kind of started talking about it before when we were saying that Spider-Man 2099 has created a spider society and has included everybody in it except for Miles. And
that's racist.
It's not racist. There are other black people in the Spider Society. One of the trailers introduced Spider Bite, who is a young black girl who fights cyber crimes, but she's also a spider superhero.
There's also Spider Woman who's pregnant.
Spider Woman,
at the same time, that's racist because you don't let any black males in there.
Hobie's black male.
Who's that?
Spider Punk, Hobie Brown, black male.
Can't see him with the mask on.
You got to check out the newest trailers. There's a trailer of him with his mask off. Okay. And Miles even remarks, he was like, "How do you look even cooler with your mask off?" Because he already looks cool because he's Spider Punk. He has the spike mohawk and everything. And it's like,
here's the thing, Spider. When I know that we're gonna go see something, I try to stay away from the trailers because I'm afraid that they put all the good parts in the trailers.
It's possible, but no, these, at least with the Spider-Verse trailers, it's just been a lot of like these first looks at the different Spider characters. As far as to what's going in the story, I still feel like they've kept that very vague. But what I think is going to happen is that
prediction time. It wasn't the last one.
We got into, I think it was the second trailer where Miguel O'Hara, who is Spider-Man 2099, kind of went into talking about how all of them has lost somebody, you know, whether it was an Uncle Ben, whether it was, you know, Peter for Gwen. And they alluded to, at least the theorists have alluded to, Miles not necessarily having that, but he did have that when he lost his
He
Uncle
did have
Aaron.
that.
But
Yeah.
I think
But that don't count across the Spider-Verse? That's some nonsense.
that is nonsense. But what I'm thinking is that it's essentially that they are going to try to take away one of his parents. And the reason I'm thinking that is because after watching the alternate universe cut of Into the Spider-Verse, Miles has a couple of dreams. They had some cinematics of a couple of dreams that he had, once before he got bit by the spider and then once after he got bit by the spider, of him sort of losing his dad. And so we saw a clip in that second trailer that we reviewed, that there's a scene of Jefferson falling, and the way that they cut it makes it look like Miles is trying to reach for him and Miles doesn't catch him. So they're alluding to the potential loss of a parental figure, and throughout the different iterations, of Miles Morales in the comic books, Miles lost his mom. There was a big event. Miles' mom, Rio Morales, she was a nurse. She was at the hospital. They had like a whole influx of people coming into the hospital because of this catastrophe that was going on in New York. His mom ended up getting killed in the hospital because there was a collapse. In the video games, Miles loses his dad. Miles' dad is a cop. He's being honored at a ceremony where he helps Spider-Man apprehend some criminals. And while the ceremony is going on, there's a suicide bomber. Jefferson ends up saving the mayor, who's Norman Osborn. He pushes him out of the way, goes after the suicide bomber, blows up. Jefferson gets killed. And so we've seen in Into the Spider-Verse that Uncle Aaron dies. So in all of these different iterations of Miles's story, he has a different family member that's being killed. So I don't know if he's going to lose another one, or if they're going to try to make him lose another one, because we've seen that there's this sort of holding cell area that Miguel has. And part of one of the trailers is that he's trying to trap Miles. And we get to see that, you know, of course, Miles is running away and he's being he's being chased by all of the different other spider beings and everything. So I'm thinking that for whatever reason, if it's something about Miles not losing a parental figure is prohibiting him from being able to join the Spider Society, or if it's because we kind of in the whole thing about in What If, when we had, what was it, the Nexus points, you know, having a person who is slated to have something happen to them across all universes, and if that does not happen, that could cause an incursion. Right, an absolute point. And so if Miles not having that, you know, loss of a parental figure, but still becoming a spider person or spider being, that may disrupt the very fabric of this web of destiny or this web of time or anything. So that might be why Miguel doesn't want him as a part of the Spider Society, and also wants to imprison him, because we've seen that at the end in the post-credit scene for Into the Spider-Verse, he's developing this, you know, wearable technology to allow him to voluntarily jump through universes. That's what his AI Lila is telling him. You'll be the first person to voluntarily make a jump between universes. So obviously he's on this mission to go through all of the different universes and recruit all of these different spider beings in order to, I don't know, to fight some oncoming threat.
Whoa!
And it could also be because we in this movie we're getting introduced to the Spot, and I know one of the big things, but that's happened with Spider Men,
or women,
or Spider Women, with Spider Beings,
Spider people.
We saw that in No Way Home, where all of these villains from across these different universes were brought into uh Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the MCU. They were all brought into the MCU, and Spider-Man wants to help them. He wants to,
Of course.
figure out a way to help them so they don't die going back to their own universe. Doctor Strange is like, they're supposed to die, send them back to the universe so they can die. And it may be an issue with the Spot where Miguel already knows that if they don't kill the Spot, then he's going to end up like his spots will get out of control. It may create some sort of like black hole event that destroys not only the world, but it can destroy other universes if he can find a way to like teleport through different universes and things like that. And if they don't kill him, it's going to cause catastrophe for the entire Spider-Verse. And of course, Miles may not want to kill him. Miles may be of the, redemption type to where he's trying to give him a second chance. And
yeah,
that causes a problem.
Spider-Man trait.
Yeah.
To take the Michelle Obama high road and not kill villains. Here's a question: Spider-Man versus Punisher. Who wins that?
Punisher.
Yeah, because Punisher's not
afraid to kill.
So how does that conversation goes between Spider-Man, who does care about human life, versus a Punisher that does not?
I mean, it would probably
go about human life.
Same way that the conversation between Punisher and Daredevil went in a Netflix series.
Yeah, but that conversation's not creditable because Daredevil's not creditable.
Why is Daredevil not creditable?
What? That's a whole nother video right there. We should do a video just about how much Daredevil sucks.
I mean,
you don't like that.
You and your wife will be on that episode because I have a differing opinion.
It'll be you versus everyone.
If it would be me, if everyone agreed with you, then I don't think there would be a reason for MCU to bring back Charlie Cox into his own
people
series.
Love Daredevil. They just love Charlie Cox. It has nothing to do. They could have put Charlie Cox in a sitcom, and he would have done the same level.
Could they? What are the numbers looking like on Charlie Cox's series?
Does he have a series?
Yeah, he does have a series. It's not a superhero series. He's like a government agent or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that exists. So there you go. Marketing plays a part in that. I would have watched that. I watched Daredevil. I found Daredevil in the trash can, just like Rosario Dawson. Mm-hmm. She was in a dumpster.
Oh, treason.
Oh, well, horrible name. Based on nothing. I'll base this off nothing. I haven't even seen the trailer. If you guys want us to review Treason, let us know in the comments.
It was just a mini series on Netflix, and it has a 6.4 out of 10. So I don't know if it's just Charlie Cox that people like, or if they actually like him playing Daredevil.
Okay. We've seen what happened to the Daredevil-ish type of hero in The Boys.
Completely different universe, completely different circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so
sorry.
It's really, you won't know what we're going to get in this movie or the movie following it. It's just we can only go off of what we've seen in the trailer, but we already know that trailers lie or trailers misdirect. So what we do know is that we're going to get introduced to a number of different spider beings. We're going to get.
Is that the reason that they didn't bring Spider-Man Noir back, or even Penny Parker, or Spider-Ham?
We don't know if they're not going to be back.
Well, we got so many iterations of the different Spider people. I guess they didn't feel like they needed to bring them back.
We don't know if they're not going to be back. They can make cameo appearances in the movie. We don't know that.
You know what? I am ready for this Spider-Verse eccentric type of thing to roll out, like a Decepticon or Autobot. Roll out. What?
But when it comes to
swing out,
when it comes to, and I feel like we didn't even really talk about the movie too much.
We talked about it enough.
We kind of been
Spider-Man.
Theorizing about future films and other properties. But when it comes to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Mr. VIP Frank Washington, was the movie super?
Hey, I thought you had never asked that question. In fact, I was waiting for you to do so I could tell everyone to go and watch Spider-Man. This one is a masterclass. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. They did everything right. They did the Easter eggs right. They did the lead ups right. They did the foreshadowing right. They did the payoffs right. The score was right, or the music was right.
The
For those who
score,
don't
right? Yeah,
understand, the score and the music is the same thing.
it's
They
actually
did
different.
well, yeah, you know what I'm saying. For those uninitiated, don't know. So, for those that enjoy a great tale of a movie, this is by far ass number one. It's a play on words. Don't worry about it. Go watch it. Come back. Let us know what you think about it. I thought it was super, but my opinion doesn't matter. I'm only half of the show. The other half is deemed the name worthy enough to carry it on his shoulders, chest, back, and head. Spider, the classic,
Mm-hmm.
Into the Spider Verse, starring Miles Morales, not Peter Parker, but has Peter B. Parker and Penny Parker and
I mean, Peter
Gwen.
Parker was in it too.
Well, that one died,
He
so
did.
goes to show you blonde hair isn't everything.
I don't know if
Clear,
anybody said who was.
well, they didn't like blonde hair in this movie. The Spider-Man with blonde hair died. Gwen had blonde hair. She got half her hair ripped off. If you ask me, I think Kingpin probably had blonde hair too and lost it. So clearly, the haters of blonde hair made this movie. But was it super? That's the question. You can't see me.
What is that?
Dog pound.
Okay,
At least I thought it was. In my mind, I thought it was.
possibly. I don't know. But
Well, if you're a
yes,
dog pound guy.
100%. You already see it right there. It's all about Miles Morales.
Oh, I thought that was something freaky for you and the missus to get into. A little role play.
You seen me wear the mask.
Hey man, that was a whole different episode ago. I need to get me a mask. Who else has masks that I can get?
I mean, take your pick.
No, I need it to be like that, like soft and pull it on, and you can't do that with an Iron Man helmet.
I mean, that's why I said take your pick. You have a number of superheroes that have masks.
Not that half face nonsense Daredevil wears. That
I
nonsense is
didn't.
that.
I say Daredevil?
Well, who else has a mask?
A bunch of different superheroes have
The
masks.
question? Oh, okay. Well,
But anyway, to
there
answer
you
your
go.
question, yes, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is super. The like you
Why?
said, it's do you want me to recap the whole hour that we've been talking about this? No, the animation
Well,
style
Kurt knows.
the animation style is absolutely revolutionary.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how they incorporated the
That's why I
words
was
into
saying
the.
we didn't really talk about the movie itself.
We're here for the conversation.
But the
That's what we're
animation
here
style, one of the things that has been talked about over and over and over again about this movie is about how the animation is rendered in 24 frames per second, but Miles is rendered in 12 frames per second until he becomes Spider-Man. Then he goes up to 24 frames per second. So it gives sort of that separation of the world and Miles trying to find himself. He's trying to find himself in school. Then he gets bitten by the spider. He's trying to find himself as Spider-Man, trying to find his role in this entire universe that he's in. And just being that subtle part of the different animation styles between the different spider beings, of the animation style between Spider-Man Noir and Penny Parker and Spider Ham and Peter B. Parker and then Gwen, and then we see how it differs when they all go back to their different universes and everything, and the comic book adaptation of the different panels, the thought bubbles, the word bubbles, the what they call it, the onomatopoeia of them like doing an action and then the word of that action popping up when Miles throws the bagel at the guy and hits him in the head and it says bagel over the top of his head. It's just different stuff like that. It was very innovative, very creative, and I'm absolutely looking forward to more of that when we get into Across the Spider Verse. But just that, we talked about the soundtrack, the music, So fitting. The leap of faith moment, the
The father and
callbacks,
son
the
dynamics.
father
The
and son
father and son
I mean
dynamic.
the just the parental dynamic period, because we see how Rio is a little bit more nurturing, whereas Jefferson is a little bit more structured, and you have that in sort of their professions, where Jefferson is a cop, Rio is a nurse, and this is somebody that's taking care of people versus somebody that's upholding the law, right? And so
Yeah,
of
I
course
wouldn't want my
Jefferson
nurse to be jaded like that.
and of course Jefferson, is all about following the rules and everything. Where they get home, uh Miles sees Peter dies and he runs home for comfort from his parents. The first thing that Jefferson says is, "It's a weeknight. You need to go back to school." Rio is like, obviously he's upset. Let him stay here. And it's just that dynamic between, the two of them, and just that
But
whole.
the change, the arc, when he says, "I found some police walls that we can
Right. And we can see, because Jefferson knows that Miles has always gravitated towards his Uncle Aaron. And it's just basically, and I think that's what kids do, is because you have a family member, whether it's a cousin, whether it's an uncle, whether it's an aunt, they're not your parent, so they're not as hard on you as your parents are. So those kids naturally gravitate towards them because they see them as the fun relative, whereas the parents are all about rules and regulations and strictness. So after Aaron gets killed, Jefferson knows that that's leaving this vast, hole in Miles's life, that he doesn't have anybody to turn to express that art. He knows how much that artwork, the graffiti and stuff, means to Miles. So he said, "Okay, why don't we do something where you can express your creativity, but do it legally?" Right? So they create the mural in honor of his Uncle Aaron, and so it gives Jefferson and Miles that bonding moment. And so hopefully we get to see, and we see that whole, that turn where after Aaron gets killed and Jefferson goes to go talk to Miles, and of course Miles can't really engage in the conversation because he's been webbed up by Peter B. Parker. But we see sort of Jefferson's motivation as behind why he's been like pushing you. "I'm pushing you to stay at the school. You've been purposely trying to fail to get away from it because you think that this is where you belong." But Jefferson tells him, he's like, "I see this spark within you, and I know
Mm,
that you're destined for great things." And even his Uncle Aaron
mm,
tells him, like, when he, with his last breath, he's like, "You're the best of us." He's like, "I wanted you to look up to me, but I messed up because of the path that I've taken. But you, Miles, you're the best of us." And so he takes these messages from these mentor figures that he has, and he takes that, and you can see that it was those words that propelled him while he's going through his montage in the leap of faith scene. But he hears, his dad saying, "I see the spark within you." And it's like he knows that everything that he needs to do to become who he needs to be is already within him. And we can see that when they get to the collider, and they're talking about, Peter B. Parker is talking about he has to get up to the thing so he could put the goober in it and destroy the collider. And Miles is like, "Nah, I got it." He steals the goober off of Peter B. Parker, and then he again turns everything, all of the callbacks, everything that Peter taught him, both Peters, as a matter of fact, everything that they've shown him, he comes back at the end of the movie, he does them. He, steals the goober from Peter B. Parker, says, "You got to wash the hands, not the mouth." And then he goes into amazingly animated scene when he's jumping like through the buildings, and he's like spearing himself so he could slap him
mm-hmm.
faster. And like, he has not shown this skill up
It's
until
the
this point.
confidence.
Right.
Yes,
It's
it's
just
the
the confidence that he
confidence.
has now, to where Gwen is like, "Pete is like, Miles, be careful." And he's like, "I don't know what you're doing right now." But so he jumps through the buildings that are about to collapse on him. He swings around, and he does basically the same moves that the first Peter Parker did when he went to go put the goober and destroy the collider. And Peter B. Parker is like, "Did we teach him that?" And Gwen is like, "I didn't teach him that. And I know you definitely didn't
Mm.
teach him that." But he has all of this that comes back. And like you said, the callbacks are just one of the great things about this movie, is just the references that are made throughout the whole thing. And just like you said, that confidence that he has now to know that he is Spider-Man. He's saying that, even at the end when he reintroduces himself, he's New York's only
Allow
Spider-Man.
me to reintroduce myself. And he says the same thing in the new one as well.
Right. And he's New York's only Spider-Man. And so being able to grow into that, and we see that progression even though it's just a short period of time, because it's not like, but like I was saying, with the alternate universe cut, we get to see him try and fail, try and fail, try and fail, as we've seen with all of the other Spider-Man movies, well, except for the MCU movies, because Spider-Man is really already established as, you know, being a hero and everything. But the Tobey Maguire, the Andrew Garfield movies, we see him trying, you know, becoming more comfortable with his superpowers. So we didn't really get to see that much. We got, like I said, we got the one jump where he failed and he missed it, and he fell into the street. But even though we don't get to see that progression of him like becoming more comfortable using his powers, we get that see the progression of him understanding who he is and becoming more comfortable with himself. So as becoming more comfortable with himself, he now is more comfortable in using his powers. He can, you know, do the venom strike, and he can turn invisible on his own, to where he was turned invisible, he was beating up Liv, Doc Ock, Olivia Octavius. And just that whole final fight scene was just the the slingshot punch where Miles grabs Peter B. Parker, he slings him, and they sling Gwen, and Gwen punches, and then Miles punches, and then Peter punches. It's like all of that was just done so well, and it was just so much of that throughout the whole movie. It was animated beautifully, it was scored beautifully, the motion picture soundtrack was done beautifully, the story was well written, and
They normally mess up sequels.
they
They
do.
normally mess up
But I
sequels.
think that when you have the same writing team, when you have this the same sort of instruction following the same kind of storyline, is like we saw with between Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, you had pretty much the same, you know, progression of story. And you know, some would argue that Guardians 1 was better than Guardians 2, or Guardians 2 was better than Guardians 1, but I don't think anybody has ever come out and said that Guardians 2 was a bad movie, right? So like,
No, no.
you know, as compared to Thor and Thor: The Dark World, right? How
You
people
just
people will subjectively say that Thor: The Dark World was an awful movie,
uh,
and that's you know, you didn't have the same director. It was two different directors, different writing teams, so they took the character in sort of a different way, and then they kind of turned it back around. Still a different director, different writing team, but when in Thor Ragnarok, they sort of tried to reinvent the character to sort of deviate from what we saw in Thor: The Dark World. But
yeah.
going from Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse to Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse, we're following basically that same story path progression. And I think that, you know, with the writers and the producers being the same, I really feel like they've kept in mind the type of story that they told in the first one, and they're going to kind of keep along with that with the second one as well. So it's just a matter of what exactly is going to happen in the second one. And you know, and I hate, because we saw this in Fast 10, because we know that there's going to be another part, it's going to leave off as an obvious cliffhanger. So I know everything that we get in Across the Spider-Verse is going to end with an obvious cliffhanger that we're going to have to wait until the next one comes out before we can get any kind of resolution to it. But
Well,
all that being said is, yes, I
I'll be
absolutely
in there.
think, oh, absolutely, I will definitely be in there. But yeah, the movie was absolutely super. It was great. It's one of the ones. It's one of those movies where if I find myself looking for something to watch, if I don't have a Netflix show or nothing on YouTube that I want to watch, I will sit and watch Into the Spider Verse again and again and again, and you know, not be bored by it. It'll still be just as exciting and exhilarating as the first
Relevant,
time.
exciting,
Exactly.
relevant, juicy, good, deliverable, score-tastic.
Juicy, but yeah,
What? Oh,
juicy is not a word I would use to
that
describe it.
did I say juicy?
You did say juicy.
I probably slipped it in there somewhere between juicy and and a score-tastic. But oh yeah, I said score-tastic. Listen, I told you last time. I'm just giving you guys words. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm a giver. I'm a giver. I give you guys words. You guys enjoy the words that I give. You're welcome. I'm not even charging you guys for this.
True.
This is why y'all love this show. I'm a giver
But let us know in the comments what you think about Spider-Man Into the
and
Spider-Verse.
score-tastic.
and what you hope to see from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you're watching this video this week, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is premiering this week. It's going to be coming out this Friday, June 2nd. It is going to be a wild time. If you have not gotten your tickets already, get your tickets.
Well, you can't say tickets. Tickets is irrelevant now. You have to say get your admission. Because we don't use tickets anymore.
I mean, it's still a ticket. It's a digital ticket, but it's still a ticket.
It's a QR code.
But it's still a ticket. It's a scannable ticket.
Get your admission.
People still go to the theater and they stand in line and they go buy tickets.
Absolutely right. That is so out of pocket for Mr. VIP Frankie Washington to say people don't use tickets. We all still use
people still buy tickets. People still buy physical tickets because even, and this was back in 2018 when Infinity War came out, but I kept my Infinity War ticket for the longest because it's when people are sentimental about things like that.
You scrapbook it. You put it, you fill that little cellophane back, and you put it right on the sticky, and then you pull that cellophane back and.
It could be
memories.
It could be the first movie that you take your kid to, or it could be a movie on the first date. It's something. So they might want that ticket instead of like a screenshot of a printed out QR code. They may want that movie ticket stub.
Yeah, man, we've gotten so far away from all that.
Yeah,
at least I have, because I'm not a hoarder. But to each his own.
Right. But let us know what you think about what you hope to see in Across the Spider-Verse. Get your prediction time in the comments. Let us know what you hope to see, what you're thinking is going to happen in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But remember, if you like this video, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes that come out. If you want the audio version of the podcast, just search for All Things Super on your favorite podcast streaming platform. And if you want to join in on the conversation, just tweet at us at ATSuperPod.
And we like reading the comments. So here's a comment that you can read from my lips in your ears because you're talented like I am.
Just reading with your ears.
You're reading with your ears in the audio version. And I'm going to speak on behalf of Spider and Mr. VIP Frankie Washington and let you guys know we love you.
I'll co-sign on that.
There you go.
I mean, when you say you're about to speak on my behalf, I'm like, wait. Gotta make sure what you're about to say. Follow along.
All views are based on Mr. VIP.
We may co-host a show together, but I don't co-sign on everything that this man says.
Oh my goodness. There we go.
But yes, we absolutely love all of you. We thank you so much for the support. We appreciate you joining us on this episode, but we will see you all again in the next episode when we review Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But tell
them what to do. Tell them what to do.
Then, just remember, keep being super.
There you go.